Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Ramsey's Rockin' Roads. This episode, and I forgot to mention, I'm here with my sidekick, Funny Boy Shane, and we got a special guest out here from Tennessee, but I'm gonna leave that for a later episode as a surprise. But this episode, Shane and I have been actually talking about this for about 6 months now. I'm super excited about it because I think this one's gonna be helpful, both employees, any employees out there watching this, or any employers out there that are watching this, or any employees that want to become employers. I think this episode's going to be super helpful. So this one is looking at it through employees' eyes, looking at it through employers' eyes. Shane, I'm sure you'll come up with a nice, catchy title for it, but let's get right into it. I'm going to start out with some statistics that most people know in the U.S. 1 million businesses are started in the U.S. every year. Within 5 years, 80% of those guys are going to be gone. Another 5 years, 80% of those guys are going to be gone. So out of 1 million businesses within 10 years, there's only going to be about 40,000 of those businesses that are left. Now, out of those 40,000 businesses that are left, we're left with employers that are semi-salty. I guess the nice word would be they're kind of semi-salty, and they know their employees are stealing from them. They know their vendors are out to get them. All the bad things we know of the world has got them to where they are today. And this episode, I want to try to alleviate some of those concerns and maybe add a little spark into those employers' business and maybe allow them to look at things through a different kind of light. Now, I believe personally, and maybe this comes from my sales experience, but I believe personally that our success in life, where we get to in life, has a lot to do with maybe 90, 95, 100%. I don't know what the statistics are, but I believe a lot of the success we get in life is dependent upon our relationships. Simple as that. Relationships with vendors, employees, our family. Our success in life is highly, highly dependent upon our relationships all around. Employees, employers, we spend so much time together, and I spend more time with the people that work for me than I do with my own family. So that's why I've been really excited about this episode, just because it's something I deal with all the time. I have certain managers that come to me and say, Scott, why did this happen? Shouldn't that employee have known better? Why did they do this? Why? It doesn't matter. So I have certain managers that come to me and they're upset or disgruntled about a certain situation that happened, and I said, well, let's look at the situation as a whole. And all of you guys out there have heard me talk about systems. How as the company, how as the upper management, how did we fail the situation? How did we fail that employee? How did we fail that customer? How did we not have a system in place that allowed for that employee to go sideways or for the customer not to get what he wants? So that's what this episode's all about. The 3 things that I've come up with in my life that employees want, it really boils down to 3 things. And the 3 things are, they want security. They want to know they're working for a company that's not on the verge of bankruptcy. They're not on the verge of downsizing. They're a good, strong company. So they want to know they have some security there. They also want to work, employees that stay, guys or girls, employees that stay with a company for a while. They want a company that does good work. They want to feel like they're contributing to society. They don't want to work for a hack company. I mean, those companies will get employees, but retention is probably pretty hard. For example, entry-level position, let's say a 99-cent store. Nothing wrong with the 99-cent store, but it's all cheap crap from China. How long is that employee, once they figure out the rules of resale, how long is it going to be before that employee takes what they learned at the 99-cent store and they put it to work at Macy's? Now that's a career you can build upon. And the last thing, very basic, employees want to make sure they have a paycheck on Friday. If we can hit all 3 of those criteria, we've got something that we can build upon. And really, guys, at the end of the day, that's all employees want. They want security. They want to know they work for a good company. They're putting out a good product. They're contributing to society. And they want to know they've got a check waiting for them on Friday. That's all they want. At the end of the day, that's all they want. Right, Timmy?
Yep.
You agree? That's all they want. And now this is where I switch gears and I talk about the employer. Now, and I have this happen, and it doesn't matter what kind of time software you get or time clocking software, GPS software. As an employer, when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey Scott, my check was 15 minutes short," I sit back on my chair and rewind. The old Scott Ramsey would have sat back in my chair and I would have been a little upset about it, like, gosh, who cares about $8? Who cares about $5? Well, I'm looking at life through a different lens than the employee. Well, $8 or $10 is different to them than it is for me. So now it's just a matter of, if there's any kind of discrepancy, I have an open mind about it. We say, hey, let's go check, let's make sure. And let's just hypothetically say that their check was short at $8. I mean, I'll just go get a $20 bill out of the petty cash drawer and just give them, here's $20. So sorry. Onward and upward. It's no big deal. I don't get upset about it. I don't, try to debate it. It's just, I'm looking at it through their eyes. And you look at it through their eyes. I mean, $8, that's several trips to Starbucks. That's, 2 lunches during the week. So anyway, that's just one little example. The other thing that us employers, and I'm going to talk about it a little more, us employers have to remember that people that work for us don't want to own their own company. They don't want the stresses of it. Now, there are very, very few employees that end up owning. Percentages are quite small. And actually, just in my little world, I can say that I've had one employee, in which we're gonna have a sequel today with Tim Claiborne. But I've had one employee that I know of in 25 years that actually has gone out on his own and made a successful business. I've had other guys that have tried it and floundered and it hasn't worked out, but at least they tried. I gotta commend them for that. But the one thing I do know is, out of the one Tim Claiborne in the world, there's been 6 other guys that have just been totally burned out, done with owning their own companies, and then I was able to acquire them. And so the ratio, and I don't know if this is a universal ratio, but let's say 1 out of 6. In 25 years, I've had one employee go out on his own, start a successful company, and I've had 6 guys call me and say, hey, we're throwing in the towel. Do you want to buy our equipment? So 1 out of 6, I don't know. So that just tells you statistics in the US, 80% are gone in 5 years, 80 more are gone in 5 years. It's pretty consistent. Now, the reason why I think that employees are less likely to start their own companies is because of the three main things we talked about: the security, working for a good company, and having a paycheck on Friday. If you eliminate any one of those criteria, it kind of takes owning your own company off the table. And so I'm going to talk about that when I get into the employer's lenses or the employer side of things. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but for now I'm going to move on. And the one thing that I really focus on with my employees, that I try to help my employees focus on, is what we're doing today is what we're doing today. Now, the way I did things, and Tim Claiborne can remember it, and I'm sure it was a little frustrating for him back when I did it, but now that he's a business owner, maybe he'll appreciate it a little more. But he didn't necessarily know, and my guys don't necessarily know what's happening tomorrow until tomorrow. And the reason for that is I've had guys go totally sideways, and I'll have them pop by. I'm just going to give you guys a quick little example. I had my chip seal super stop by a job in Santa Barbara because he was already in Santa Barbara, and I said, hey, go look at this job. It's tomorrow. I just want you to scope out access. Make sure we can get the equipment in there. It's kind of up in the mountains. Just go look at it. And he got so wrapped up into the job that was going to happen tomorrow that he totally botched the job today, and we actually had to go back and fix the job. And it was just minor stuff. It wasn't anything all that big, but his mind got so focused on tomorrow that he totally ruined today. And so I've learned, and I've had drivers. We were actually Shane and Timmy and I were talking about a driver that I used to have, and we were laughing, and I actually brought up that I was going to bring this guy up. I'm not going to say names; it's not right. But I've had a driver where I had him just simply stockpiling materials on a job site in preparation for a future time. Well, he thought that that was the job for him the next day, and he made plans. He went back to the yard. I mean, he was getting stuff ready, and he had no business getting it ready, but in his mind, he was ready for tomorrow. He was geared up for tomorrow, and kind of botched today because he was looking too focused on what was going to happen tomorrow. So that's the one thing that I really, I know it can be frustrating for some guys, but it's something that I've learned through trial and error that really helps me, helps the guys. It just helps everybody to stay focused on what's happening for today. And our employees, they don't really need that much information. They don't really need to know what we're in Q4. They don't really need to know what Q1 looks like. How does January look? How's February look? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I don't know what the economy is going to be like. I really don't know a whole lot more than they do. I mean, I do have our forecast, but that's kind of a private thing, and it's just I try to have my guys just focus on what's important, and what's important is the job that they need to get done today. Don't worry about anything else, because there's a lot of variables out there. We've got the hot plant breaking down. We've got equipment breaking down. There's a lot of variables and a lot of things that can happen, a lot of circumstances that can happen, accidents on the freeway. We get stuck in traffic. Asphalt's getting cold. Too many, we go through a CHP checkpoint. There's so many variables. Let's just get through today. And that's all we're going to focus on. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about life through the employer's eyes. Now, I'm going to say some things that are going to be probably going to aggravate some of you employers out there, but it's the truth. It's the cold, hard truth. And any of you guys out there that have really been in legitimate business for yourself, you're going to have to take a step back in the mirror, and you're going to have to say, yeah, Scott's right about what he's saying. So when it comes to us looking at our employees, guys, girls, ladies, men, they don't care about our equipment. It's a fact. They don't care about our money. They don't care about the supplies, the waste, losing slurry, a few 5-gallon buckets of emulsion, seal. They don't care. And last but not least, which is probably the hardest for all of us, they don't care about the time, because a lot of our employees are hourly employees. That's how they make their money. We make our money by completing jobs and completing services. They make their money per hour. When I hired Tim Claiborne, we interviewed together initially, and this goes back nearly 10 years now, and I hired him as an operator. And in order for him to come to work for me as an operator, I agreed to pay him X amount salary. It's very simple. Now, as time goes on, that relationship kind of breaks down a little bit, because now what if Timmy doesn't really want to be an operator? Or what if I can't really afford to pay Timmy? Or what if Timmy gets really good as an operator? And so there's variables that kind of change as we go. And every once in a while, you have to go back to the basics. Like for me, every year, once a year, when it comes to sales, no matter how many people I meet, how many companies I talk to, no matter how many homeowners association meetings I go to, once a year I always go back to the basics. I put on a Tom Hopkins cassette, and I go back to the basics without exception. When it comes to our employees, now some of you might call them yearly reviews or whatever, but for me, it's not even really, I mean, everyone that knows me knows how I feel about HR. Shove it. But, however, I don't do these yearly reviews. What I simply do is I just go back to the basics. How we evaluate or put an evaluation on an employee are really based upon three factors, and only three. How in demand is the job or service they provide? So let's go back to the basics and say, or a very simple example is, in my business, a shovel guy, a laborer. Well, he's in pretty high demand. I mean, he is in pretty high demand. Okay, so I can use him. How good is this individual in the job that they do? Okay, well, that's something I may need to find out. So in the process of hiring a guy, it may be, hey, I'll start you out here, give you 2 weeks. I promise to move you up. You work hard, you learn, whatever. That's all in the beginning negotiations. Then the third thing is, how much or how hard is it going to be for me to replace this individual? So when you're talking about a shovel guy or a laborer, yeah, they're in demand. They might be a really hard worker, but really, how hard is it for me to replace this guy? Probably not that hard. So unfortunately, or fortunately, or just that's just the way it is, he's probably going to be maybe a little bit of a lesser paid employee. Now, let's talk about one of my superintendents. Superintendent, in demand? Absolutely. I can't run my company without superintendents just because of the way I'm structured. I can't do it without superintendents. Are they good at what they do? Well, that just depends on kind of the profitability of the jobs. That, once again, is yet to be seen. We'll soon find out. And if I do find a good guy, how hard is it for me to replace that guy? And it's actually it's not even a matter of replacing, it's a matter of retraining. So now when you say retraining, now that puts my time on the line. And so that adds another level of complication to the whole thing. So now when you go back to the basics once a year and you put a valuation on your laborer, yeah, you might bump him up a couple bucks and he would be happy with that. He's appreciated. Now a superintendent, now you're talking about a different level. You got to look at a lot of factors and you say, okay, well, this guy needs a 10% increase. You know, and at the kind of pay scale I'm talking about, that's a substantial amount of money. So that's just the way I look at my employees. And really, when my guys come to me and say, hey, Scott, I've been here for 2 years, time for a raise. And I literally ask them the question, what are you doing now that's different than what you did a year ago? Well, now I can run the roller. Now I can do the viber plate. Now, and then I will go to their superintendent, because sometimes I really don't know these things. And I'll go to the superintendent and I'll say, hey, is this true? Hey, Miguel came to me the other day and he said he's rolling and viber plating. And if the super says, oh yeah, then hey, I got to keep this guy. I got to throw money at it. That's just the way it works. Or you're going to lose them. So it's up to you guys. When I say go back to the basics, if anything is going sideways, that's the time where you really got to look at the systems and you got to internalize it and say, how can we fix this issue? Because as they say, the fish stinks from the head down. Everything starts with a company. There's always somebody at the top of the company that sets the culture, that sets the presence, that sets everything, that just sets the energy level of the company. The fish stinks from the head down. If something's not going right at the bottom levels, look at the top levels. And so that's where knowing that the guys don't care about the equipment and they're going to beat it up, and knowing that they don't care about the money, and that's where we have to have systems in place that just take care of all those things. So a system for equipment might be a different way to load the equipment, a different way to pull the equipment. One little example that I've got for all of you guys is we bought these really nice brochet tow behind sweepers. And I just thought they were the greatest thing, because the other kick brooms we've had before, you got to load them up on trailers. And I thought they were the greatest thing. And the guys towing them to the jobs weren't, let's just say it as it is. The guys weren't taking care of the equipment, as I know guys don't take care of the equipment. And what was happening is the hubs were popping out. It was just, I don't know how guys among the country deal with it, but what I did finally after we had the last failure, I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I went down to the trailer barn, and I have 3 of these sweepers, and I bought 3 trailers. And what we did is we ended up welding the hubs in place so they can't pop in or out. We've had 0 issues. Now those, I know the sweepers are supposed to be tow behind, but it just didn't work. For my operation, it didn't work. Now there's guys out there in the US that say, "Oh no, we have lots of those and they work great for us." That's okay. For me, the terrain, the bouncing, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. And that's one simple example of, okay, we just nip it in the butt and went and got 3 trailers, and it has not been an issue since. Money. Money's a big thing for all companies. I mean, we live or die by the money. And I tell a lot of my friends and family, if it wasn't for the money part of my company, I would have the best job. Because the money part sucks. I mean, I have no nice way of saying it. A lot of times in business, the money part sucks. Employees have to be paid on Friday. That's what they expect. Our customers don't pay us right away. You know, our guys do a job on Wednesday, they get paid on Friday. I might not get paid for that job for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's just the way it is. So money is an important part. Money makes the world go round, and so we have to keep an eye on the money. We have to make sure we have people in place that keep an eye on the money, and we have to make sure we have systems in place that keep track of the money. And one thing that I do to where I keep track of little things and little indicators is on my daily dispatch, I put on there the tonnage. I have the footage, the tonnage that should be used, and we just keep track of it at the end of the day. It doesn't take any time. It doesn't take any extra thing. But when the guys send me pictures, they say, okay, job's complete, left it blocked off. We used 345 tons. That's it. Very simple. And then I look back and say, wow, that's pretty good. We were only supposed to use, we were supposed to use 350 tons, but they went 345. Hey, whatever. Who cares? 5 tons. You know, the guys don't necessarily, it isn't their stuff. Now, when you go into their home and you go to grab a piece of paper out of their printer and you're going to scribble some stuff, no, don't grab it out of the printer. I have a stack of recycled paper here. And I think to myself, well, why can't you do that for me? Well, because it's not their money. They don't, there's a total disconnect. Plus, all of you guys out there, employees, employers, this is something very important. Even though we're running these companies, it doesn't matter how big or how small they are. All of our employees think we're these multi-millionaires and sitting on all this cash, and it's actually quite the opposite. Whenever I see my employees at the bank cashing their checks on Friday, I walk in right behind them and ask them if I can get a loan. So anyway, because it's actually quite the opposite. And so there are certain things, there are certain supplies that I've learned over the years. Back in the day, I used to give my striping crew a big box of sign hardware and just the U-post hardware. And we would get through, and those boxes are quite expensive. They're several $100s. And we would get through half a box and there would be nuts and bolts that were missing and brackets not there. And so I paid for a whole box, but only 50% is being used. So now I keep those brackets in my office. If I know the guys are putting up 2 signs that day, they get 4 brackets. That's it. That's all I give them. Handicap signs, ADA signs. I keep all that stuff in my office under lock and key because I can't give my striping guys a stack of handicap signs or ADA signs because they'll get scratched up. Yeah, they're in the truck. They're not going to lose them or sell them or anything like that. I'm not really worried about that, but just the care that's taken, they get scratched up. A customer doesn't want to pay for a new sign and it looks like it's a used sign. So that's one little thing. And then as far as time goes, I think I know for sure there are statistics in the US that talk about time theft and all that kind of thing. And I don't think, I have a lot of employees and I don't think anybody necessarily maliciously wants to steal time, but it's just one of those things where it's easy. I was an employee at one point, and if I knew we had an easy day, I'm not going to rush. But when my grandfather gave me 4 jobs to get done, I was going to hustle. So, one thing that we do for time is, and we've had podcasts on this, I have everything set up on GPS. It's easy to track the guys in or out. I know where they're at all times. And then the other thing is when I have hourly employees working, I have a salaried guy there along with them to keep track of, to keep the job moving, to keep it moving along. Hey guys, a salaried guy doesn't want to be out on a job for 10 hours when it can be done in 4. because he'd rather be home or bowling or out here at Waller Park, frisbee golfing or something like that. But there is a psychology. There is a reason behind everything. There is a system behind everything. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about at this point, and I've seen it a lot with employers, companies that have been in business for a long time, they start to kind of go sideways into the exotics. Now, what I mean by the exotics is the employers say, hey, there's a new software out there, there's a new time tracking, and this is going to be my savior to save it all. The problem with that is it gets really, really complicated. It gets really, really cumbersome. I was helping out a friend a couple years back, a paving business. I was helping him out. And when I first met them and I started understanding their business, all of their guys had these fancy tablets, and they had to input their time when they got to the job, when they left the job, and then I noticed by being around my friend that every single day his time was being wasted because he was having to chase down the guys because they didn't do their tablet correctly. They didn't do. Employers out there, business owners out there, the guys don't care. They don't care that much about it. You got to keep the exotics away. You got to keep all that hocus pocus. It doesn't work. And so I suggested to my friend, I said, hey, you got to get rid of that crap. They did, and got him set up on GPS. It's been much better since. But I will tell you, I have seen, and I've actually myself have picked up some good guys, and I've seen other companies lose good guys because they get too involved. The owners feel like the employees should feel their pain, I guess, but they really shouldn't. It gets. I saw a company lose a really, really good guy, moved out of the area because the company went sideways, and they wanted the foremans and supers to have the customer sign off on the job and photo document, and it got way too complicated. I mean, what went south or what went wrong with good old-fashioned customer service? Finish the job, put your best foot forward. The next day, call the customer. Hey, how'd the job go? Everything come out all right? Sally's gonna tell you, hey, my roses got trampled. I've done a podcast on the roses got trampled. Go replace the roses. She'll appreciate that. She'll appreciate the roses getting replaced more than she appreciates the paving job. Why that is, I don't know, but that's just the way it is. So anyway, last thing, and I hear this, because I've gotten to the point in my career in this business to where I have people that call me for advice quite often, and I'm putting myself out there for people to call me for advice. And one thing that's pretty common that I hear is, I don't really, and this is a quote from a fellow entrepreneur saying, I don't really want to bring in good guys because I really don't want to bring in high paid guys. I think it's more of an excuse, but I don't really want to bring in high paid guys because I'm going to teach them how to do it and they're just going to go out on their own. Which we've already talked about. That is it's totally a bunch of malarkey, because those guys more than likely are not going to go out on their own. However, I will say this. There's no such thing as a self-made man. I am here today because of hundreds and hundreds of people that I've surrounded myself over the last 25 years. And I am where I am today because I've surrounded myself by a lot of really, really good people, a lot of friendly people, a lot of people that have pushed me to the limit, have made me keep my attitude positive, have really expected more from me. And so as I grow and as I expand, I literally am dragging my employees with me. And there are guys that I literally have pulled out of the strawberry fields, and now they own 3 or 4 homes in Santa Maria. They're rentals. They still work for me and they own 3 or 4 homes. They're rentals. I mean, yeah, as I grow, they grow. And you guys out there, you employers, don't ever worry about hiring good guys and saying, oh, they're going to go out. I'm going to train them and they're going to go out on their own. Because if they have the aptitude to go out on their own, there's nothing you're going to do to stop that. Chances are they're not going to go out on their own. And second of all, once you do your yearly basic evaluation, make sure they don't want to go out on their own. Throw enough money at them. they're making you enough money, and if your sales guys are doing their job, the offices are doing their job, and you've got the right systems in place, they're going to be making you enough money to where you can pay them what they deserve. Continue to grow. Your employees will grow with you. And I have noticed over the years, it doesn't matter at what position or what level an employee is at, as long as they're willing to work hard, they're honest, I can teach them anything. I can implement the systems, and as everybody knows from me, those of you that have been watching the podcast for a while, I'm not a Harvard MBA. I have no education at all, but I'm just doing it every day. I'm learning. And those people that stick around me, they're doing the same thing. They're learning as we go, and I'm just dragging them along with me for the ride. So anyway, peace out, everybody. Glad you're all here. Subscribe, click, whatever you guys do. I'm out.